Brochstein. He is a Marketfy maven. He is the author of the 420 Investment Letter. He covers the marijuana sector. We will have to get his take on those stocks. They kind of been quiet lately. Haven't been in the news as much, not as many halts. Alan,
Hey,
how you doing? I got Dennis on the line. Good.
I can't believe it. Dennis always hides when I come on.
I've always thought you always come on at 9. After 9 o'clock, I got to get off because I got to trade. But love speaking with you, Alan. How's it going?
It's going okay. I'm glad to hear your voice again.
Excellent.
All right, so what is going on? Why don't you just give us a quick overview of the sector? Just in the news a lot last year, regulatory concerns, halts and whatnot. Doesn't seem to be as much of that this year.
I think nothing could compare to last year. We had the historical event of Colorado, obviously, and that created just a global buzz and really woke up a lot of people to, what I had woken up to only a year earlier, which is, that this is a brand new industry. It's very exciting. And with that said, we just went through the election season, and one of the things that's become obvious to anybody following the industry is that these things just take a long time. From the process of a state approving a medical marijuana program to the first patient actually getting medicine can take like 2 years. So investors are learning to pace themselves a little bit. Canada, for instance, was a big story last year. They have a federal medical marijuana program there, federally legal. But even that program isn't quite taking off quite as quickly as would be hoped for by investors. So I think the news flow has actually been rather interesting. President Obama was interviewed in a YouTube session, I think by a CNN reporter last week, and sounded kind of open-minded to cannabis. But that kind of thing would have doubled these stocks a year ago. But I think people have learned that a lot of things. First of all, these things take time. Second of all, as you guys know, most of these stocks are penny stocks, and there's a lot of issues there, of course. And it's just going to take some time.
A lot of them just speculative, and we've got a chart up there of FITX, which was one of the Canadian ones here. And,
oh my God!
And we got to give you some props. Here,
yeah,
actually,
I agree.
You were skeptical, Alan, on this one. All the way up, you were skeptical on this one, and obviously it's come all the way back down. What's happened with FITX?
Sure. Yeah, you have to be skeptical. First of all, even if I'm not skeptical about any of these companies, make sure you hit me up on that, because even the best companies one should be skeptical about. But things really started to change to the negative for FITX, in my view, in August, and that's when I officially told subscribers no mas. And what I think in a nutshell, what happened was they ran into zoning problems, and the company kind of denied this. The CEO, really stood his ground and said, "We don't have zoning problems." And it's these things aren't easy to figure out, but at the end of the day, the regulator felt that they do have zoning problems. So right or wrong, they were unable to move forward, and so they haven't received their license yet. They came out in August, and they said they had passed their inspection and were expecting to get their license imminently, basically. And here we are, almost 6 months later, and that hasn't played out. So the stock has taken on. Or the company, I should say, it's become a joke. You probably know about this one, Dennis. The Globe and Mail newspaper in Canada.
Yeah, that's the biggest newspaper in Canada.
The biggest newspaper in Canada. They have been just bashing at the company and just uncovering a lot of things. The whole executive team and the entire board of directors left the company on December 31st. They had said that they were going to do this before, but they didn't do it until December 31st. And they said they were doing this because of a spin out that they were doing. And I called this out. Actually, I think Benzinga wrote something up literally within minutes. When they made this announcement in the fall that they were going to do the spin out and everybody was quitting, I was like, huh? That's not the way spin outs work. You don't quit the company until it's complete. So it's just, I don't know, it's not worth really going into, but unfortunately, that company has a huge cult behind it in terms of followers, and I feel sorry for these people. A lot of money's been lost.
Dennis, don't they
Yeah.
have a factory out by you or something?
Well, they were trying. Their main plant was going to be actually 5 miles from where I live. So I tell you, and the local buzz around this company was unbelievable. I had my neighbor talking about it.
They
I
were
had
excited,
my
right?
It was everywhere. Everywhere you went in Windsor, you just heard about, you got that FITX stock, you got that
Right.
FITX stock. And that's what I was saying to a couple of my friends who were asking me. I'm like, when everybody is talking about something, it's probably a very crowded trade. And I had watched it go from 1 penny up to 10 pennies. And this is really when everybody started talking about it, was when it was 7 or 8 cents. And I had already had the big move. That's when you got to really be skeptical. When all your friends are telling you the same stock, probably means it's a little bit crowded. And it probably means it's not as good as maybe they think it is.
Dennis, you said,
So.
yeah, I'm in it. I'm short.
I just hands off. I was like, I don't get involved in this all. And I'm not a big speculative stock type of guy. You know the stocks I like to trade are the big guns. So
I don't think you can short penny stocks very effectively.
hard. Borrowing costs probably insane too.
Right.
Hey, Alan, we have to talk about GW Pharmaceuticals here. What?
Yeah, did you see that day 2 weeks ago?
Oh, my
I guess 3 weeks ago now.
Yeah, holy
Really
mackerel.
popped.
Did you get...
I mean, you guys are technical guys. Is that the mother of all reversals?
It was down in the pre-market that day.
Yeah, I know.
Remember that day?
It was
We were down
lower.
like-
It was lower.
It was like a $58. So it only shows 68 on the chart, but it was down like 58.
Can you guys get the London price, GWP in London?
No,
Are you able to access that or no?
No, I'm not. Sorry.
Okay,
But
no
that's
problem.
a great point because the chart always looks different. We were just talking about this.
Yeah, no,
It's
that's
different.
a good example. If you pull that up, the low in London, there's been, obviously a huge currency shift, but the prior low that tied in with the low in the U.S. was 299 in London, and the low on the chart that day was 310. So you kind of have a double bottom, but yeah, it's a totally different chart. But either way, that's classic, and I think Benzinga published something from me that morning as well, and that was a classic. When you see "quote unquote" bad news and the stock goes up, that's usually a good sign. So I think it's going to extend from here. I'd be curious what you guys think, actually.
It's flagging for
yeah,
sure.
I'm looking at this, and that spike high that held up, and then this is kind of rare for this stock. It made like a quadruple, 5 tops in a row. What do we call that, Dennis? A quintuplet?
Yeah, 77, 4 out of the last 5 days.
Yeah. And then backing up there, you had one just under 80. So this thing is coiling up here, a little bit of a pullback. I think if you're trying to, pick a bottom off here, you can lean on that last low here, but it's definitely digesting that whole move and getting ready to go higher. So if you got a good stop out point on the downside, if you don't want to hold in forever. But this thing is looking really technical. I don't think I've ever seen this stock have
really winding up.
really winding up here.
I've been tracking biotech takeouts. There's been 4 or 5. It's always the same story. Some relatively unknown or one product company, and they end up being acquired for a couple $1 billion by some huge company, and this happens because these huge companies don't develop anymore, they just buy. And I think that's where GW will end up eventually. I think they need to make a little bit more progress with the FDA on their Epidiolex trials, but if you do the math, it's about a $1.6 billion market cap right now. And they have more than just one shot on goal, but their main shot on goal, rare childhood epilepsy, that you look at some of these other acquisitions, you would think it would be a lot higher than $2 billion, but we'll see.
Okay, we're getting a couple stocks out of the chat. Tweed, I'm having problems finding the U.S. symbol.
So Tweed is TWMJF in the U.S.
Right.
That's a convenience ticker, so it doesn't really trade in the U.S. It's main trading is TWD on the Toronto Venture, but that's bothering me.
It's another Canadian one.
Yeah, it's Canadian. So they were the first one to go public, and I was a little skeptical at first. There was they came out right at the high of the market, and so it just seemed kind of expensive to me. I don't know. Maybe I just got lucky on not being positive on it from the get-go. I had a lot of reasons, but I don't know if my reasons were right. But I've warmed up to the company. The valuation's still a little bit high, and I think there's a big court case, huge, that starts in 2 weeks in mid-February, and the ruling is supposed to be in March. And so I don't think the market's expecting this to be favorable. What it would do if it were favorable is it would force about 40,000 patients who were able to access marijuana through an old program where they can basically either grow it themselves or buy it through a not-for-profit provider. So it would force all these people into the new commercial system, and I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to have to figure out some solution around that. But if that were to happen, it would be really good for Tweed. And I have to tell you, so with the benefit of having got to know the chairman and to watch the development of the company, and I actually, of all places here in Houston, they have a joint venture with a technology company. Then I went and visited them yesterday to kind of see. I don't know if this is going to be great for Tweed or not, this new technology that Indoor Harvest provides. But the point is, I think this is a really great company. And, the chart's not looking so great right now, and the valuation's a little high. But if I were, this is one I think people should be following closely.
Where is the status of Canada, and where is it in the Parliament there? What are the people thinking in Ottawa? Is this close to? We talked about this about a year ago, right?
Yeah. Okay. So they have a program that started April 1st called MMPR. That's a medical program, and it's a little bit bogus. You can only buy flower. You can't buy extracts. And if you look at what's going on in the United States, there's this huge move towards extracts, and people don't smoke medicine in general, but in any event, it can only be bought in the mail. So you can't. There's no legal dispensaries. There's plenty of dispensaries, but there's no legal dispensaries. So they have this program. It's a little bit slow to develop. You have to get an authorization from a doctor, and the Doctor Society is pretty mixed on this. As you can imagine, doctors aren't generally in favor of cannabis. We need to have more clinical trials, basically, and these are going on. I think this will get better over time, but the program right now, I think there's like 16,000 patients or something like that estimated. It's growing, but it's less than people had imagined. It's a little bit slower, but Health Canada predicted 450,000 by 2024. There's 35 million people roughly in Canada. That seems to be a low number if once people understand the program and how it works. But I think what excites a lot of people is there's talk that they may just go to nationally legal cannabis. I don't know what the odds of that are, but there's been a lot of talk about that.
Rock and Hilly in the chat is asking about STEV, which is Stevia Corp. Do you know this one?
I don't follow it that closely. There's about 250 or so. Maybe there's actually more companies.
There's 250 of these companies out there?
Yeah. So Stevia, so one of the things that I try to do is I focus on truly on medical marijuana.
Yeah.
Or recreational marijuana, or things that are related to that. And there's a bunch of companies that are hemp related, which this company definitely is that. I may start following them. They filed, I just saw today, 2 more patents, and they filed for 2 patents earlier this month, where they take one of the constituents of marijuana called cannabidiol, CBD, and combine it with things like acetaminophen or ibuprofen. I forget what the 2 today were, but I think one was aspirin and the other one was naproxen. And so they filed these patents. So I don't consider a company that does synthetic marijuana, i.e., not from the plant, but just make the chemical basically. Stevia has already said that they're synthetic. Now I understand that they may also extract it from hemp. And so I guess I'll start following if that proves out. But I haven't followed it that closely. They've had good news, but the chart doesn't look so good. Not a very good combination. It seems like they're not capturing investors' attention yet.
A question, from Nifty Trader, I'm curious myself here too. Obviously, we've had the legalization of marijuana in a couple of states. What is the laws on hemp?
The hemp laws are supposedly changing. I try to stay on top of them. There's a couple of bills, one in the Senate, one in the Congress, to make it nationally legal. Several states have moved to make it legal, but as long as it's not federally legal, that creates some problems. So this is just insane. Why are we getting all this hemp from China? It's one of the stupidest things. I don't understand who benefits from that except for the Chinese. So hopefully they'll make some progress.
What about MSIG? We've talked about that one in the past here, and I know you had a little faith in that company. What's going on with them? It doesn't look like they're been prospering much.
So MSIG, first of all, the chart's a little bit distorted because in late November they did a spin out of a company that trades at about 6 cents right now. So you need the chart's not adjusted for that. So it makes the performance look worse, just so you know. Second of all, it's been very interesting. They've made a lot of announcements. They seem to be getting closer to crossing what they call the green line. In other words, touching cannabis. They've set up subsidiaries in different states, in Colorado and Oregon, and I'm not exactly sure how they're doing it in some other states, but they're supposed to be launching something called the electronic medicated joint. They call it the EM-J, but basically their device preloaded with marijuana, so liquids, so for vaping. So that I think will be interesting if it actually happens in February, as they've suggested. But they also just started a software division. They hired somebody from MicroStrategy, which is a well-known data analytics company, to run this. So they're doing things, but there's just a lot of questions. The CEO is very secretive. I think I finally found a picture of the guy, but I'm not sure it was him. That's really what we're talking
Okay, we've
about.
been on the line with Alan Brochstein. He's a Marketfy maven and author of the 420 Investor Letter. Alan, thanks for joining us.
Hey, it was good to talk to you guys. Dennis, take it easy.
Okay.
Thanks, Alan. Great talking
Bye.
with you too.